Today we have Kim Janik, who is from Southern Oregon. She's very passionate about quality. She's held many titles. She also holds the title of Zombie Apocalypse Survival Instructor. So if she can survive a zombie apocalypse, she can survive software testing. So it's my greatest pleasure to introduce once again Kim Janik.
Thank you for that introduction. Can everyone hear me okay in the back? Excellent. I'm going to start. Take one, pass one down. We'll get to that later. So I want to start this off by telling you about my perfect job interview. I showed up at the company, and I was met at the front door by the hiring manager. We walked to the break room. He got me drinks. And instead of going into a conference room, we went into the lobby. We found two comfortable chairs in the corner, and we started talking. We talked about the defect process and where it was at. We talked about where they were in their web page testing and automation. We talked about the release process, where they were, and where we were going to go. We were there for, I think, over an hour and a half. This was not an interview. It was a discussion between two quality professionals. And when the offer letter came the next day, I took it without hesitation. And when I started the next week, I was excited. I knew what we were going to accomplish. I was the only one there, and that wasn't a problem because I knew from our conversations that I was going to be able to hire in the team that I wanted to do everything we had talked about. And that's when the hiring freeze hit. Everything that we had discussed, everything that we were going to accomplish, now had to be done by me. So we're going to go over that today. So a little bit of level setting. I'm going to come at this from an agile perspective. If you don't work in some sort of agile environment, that's okay. Some of this will work for you as well. I've been doing this for over 10 years, and you're going to hear some real life stories, good and bad. First, we are going to just talk about the problem, acknowledge that it does exist. And then we're going to talk about 5 different ways that you can handle that situation. You can ask for more. Talk about exposing the deficit and what that means. We're going to talk about enlisting the existing help, the low-hanging fruit, and then finally we're going to talk about converting others. So, quick poll. How many of you in here have been on a quality team where you are the only quality person? Yes, that's what I thought. Great. Well, okay, not great for you guys. So, raise your hands if you consider yourself quality. Good? Okay. Raise your hands if you consider yourself a developer. Also wonderful to see. And then last, if you consider yourself a manager, please raise your hands. Good, good. We're going to talk about all that. I'm so excited. So I have to start this paper with, I am not advocating for this model. It is not okay to hire in one single person for quality. And we could talk about how to avoid this situation. But honestly, that's a whole different paper. And I wondered, why is this so common? I mean, it is, but why is no one talking about it? Why isn't this being addressed? Go into this and understand your management's expectations. Is it their fault? The answer is usually no, from what I found. Now, if they really do have this mindset, that's a whole different argument too. Talk to me later. So, you should be having a conversation with your management. What do they expect from your quality? And you need to do a little pre-work. You need to assess the situation. Assess this overall situation. Where is the team at? It could be nothing. It could be 90% of the way there. Look at what tools you have available. What can you use that's already there? Look at the people that you have available. And we'll talk more about this later, but look at everybody. And then look at the attitude of the team. Are they excited about this product? Have they been doing this for 3 years and they're just tired? Take all that into consideration. Now, you can either set or examine your goals. Some of you are going to be given goals by management, and there's not much you can do about that till later. And some of you will set your own goals, which is a great situation to be in. Be brutally honest, okay? We're going to talk about transparency later on, but be very honest with what you have and what you hope to accomplish. And note any obstacles that you see right off the bat. So the first thing that you're going to do, the first question you're going to ask, can more people be hired? It seems so obvious, but some people forget to ask. The big question is, has something changed between when you were hired and when you started, or when you transferred into the group perhaps? A lot of times when I hear this situation from people, it's a hiring freeze. Most common one I hear. And so then ask, what is the end date for that hiring freeze? And a lot of times you will get the answer, I don't know. That's fine. When should I follow up on that? When can I ask you again? Then start asking it from a different direction. Well, what about contractors? Do they come out of the same budget as us? Or do they come out of a different budget? Can we get a contractor in for 3 months, for 6 months? Can I get them to help us? Ask about interns. Do you have an intern program? Could we get an intern? You know, hey, I was talking to so-and-so and their kid goes to this high school and they're really interested in technology. Could we get them in to help us with this? Now, I have to point out here there's a fine line between being persistent and trying to get what you want and being annoying. So, when you're asking for more, I want you to utilize facts. We're engineers. We're in an engineering environment. We love facts, most of us. Has anyone used articles to their benefit in this situation? 1, 2, wow, okay. Articles are your friend here. Here's my wonderful list. Can everyone see that okay? No? Really? Okay. Well, this is just a list, I just tossed out there of every single thing that we were going to need for our next project, everything that had to be accomplished that you're asking me to do. And, I'll just point out, these are just the major milestones, not the little things. And you can't read all this, but I put some estimates on it. And if you are asking me to do this for your project, 36 weeks is how long it's going to take me to do it. Now, this is just a rough example of a way I can use facts to say, look, this is what you're asking of me, and this is what I can do for you. I will point out that if any of you read the paper that I wrote, it's a different example in the paper. I strayed away from it because there's a lot of controversy about the use of velocity, so we're not using it here. And I understand that controversy, by the way, and agree with some of you. So is this the only example? No, of course not. Think of others that you can use that's going to help you convince your team, your management, that you need more people. Soft figures are fair game too. If you can find an article where they point to, did you know that engineering teams are 60% more happy if the developer to QA ratio is actually 1-to-1? Feel happy. It's a soft figure, but it's still something that you can bring back. So, you've asked for more. Ooh, I'm going to trip myself. And maybe you've gotten told, no way, you're not getting anybody else. Maybe you've convinced them to hire one more person, but it's still not enough. So this is where you start exposing the deficit in quality. You want to show your uncompleted work. This is how much work we have still to do. But you also want to show the completed work. You want to show that your team is making progress, and this is the benefit that you are giving them. I highly encourage you here for full transparency. You want everyone to know what's going on. Your job, in my opinion, in this situation is to raise awareness. And this is not going to be easy. Focus highly on communication. Usually I tell everybody they'll listen to me what's going on. Who do you include? Your team, obviously. Management, hopefully obvious as well. Your stakeholders. Sometimes this information remains hidden from them. I find it very useful to share. Look, we would like to get you this on this date, but this is what we have, and here's where we are at. And a lot of times they'll go, oh, I didn't even know that was a problem. Thank you for sharing that with me. You're trying to raise awareness of the situation. Paired with the before of asking for more, you're trying to get less work for your team. You may not succeed here, but you can negotiate. I have this big long list of things to do. Can we talk about it and see what the priorities are and what you're willing to settle for, given that I'm the only one working on this? You might still have too much work. Another way for exposing the deficit, just an example, I love quality reports. This may be obvious to some of you. Quality reports can be your friend. So first, select a cadence. I find weekly is very, very common. Monthly, I find to be a little bit not often enough. Daily really depends on your team. Your team may appreciate that daily feedback. They may find that too much information, especially when you're presenting 0 after 0 after 0. Now, don't be afraid to put 0% in there. We have 0% code coverage because I'm an optimist, and hopefully one day that 0 is going to become 5%, 10%. And so you're showing that progress in your indicators. So choose your indicators. Only you can decide what those are going to be. Now, I will point out here, this is not an opportunity to complain or be negative. This is all factual based. This is where our team is at. Here is where we would like to be. This is what we are focusing on. Include your team, include your manager. Consider including your second level manager. So I love the phrase, learn to love no. It is okay for you to say no to things. You will see some of these questions. Well, can't you just skip this 1 week? No. I'm trying to give this information. I'm trying to run this test. I'm trying to tell them what you're trying to accomplish, tell them why it's important, and then say, no, I'm going to do it this week. Well, this change doesn't require a code review, right? Can we fix that later? This is a great one. I had an example where I had someone that just wanted to slip in a little tiny change in the next release. Wasn't a big deal. And that ended up breaking a whole lot down the line. And then they wanted to fix it later. No, please fix it now. Can we change the schedule? I know we agreed to Q1, but we need it next week instead. That happens a lot. How many of you have had that happen to you? A couple of little hands going up. So loving no doesn't imply rigidity. It's an opportunity for you to negotiate. You need that next week? Okay, that is possible, but here's what you're going to lose. Are you going to be okay with that trade that I'm about to make for you? And they might say, well, no, we need them both. And they might say, oh, okay, I am okay with that. That'd be fine. Always point them back to the data if you need to. Here's where we're at. Here's where we need to be. Now, by this point, you might be feeling very frustrated. Your project has gotten off to a really rough start. The amount of work has not gone down. You've asked for reinforcements and you've determined they are not coming. Well, what if they were already here? Talk to everybody. and I do mean everybody you can in your day-to-day life. You're looking for new resources, and you don't want to miss out on the free ones. Now, I could give you a big networking lecture here. I'm not. You all know the importance of networking. So I'm going to give you a moment. I want you to read this story. This is based off of a true story. This is a friend of mine, actually. She works in finance. She loves her job, and she had reached a career plateau. Her team came up with a new tool that they wanted to implement, and they were looking for someone to lead this entire new tool and the entire project it was on. And she wanted to lead it. And she was missing the programming experience. She went out, she found a team that was doing similar work, and she volunteered. She said, I'll work overtime, I will do that page for you, I just want the experience. And she did. I'm very proud of her for finding that opportunity. She did get the lead position, by the way, and she did enjoy it. The only problem with this story is she didn't do the work for my team. I found out about this story when we were having coffee and bagels. And I thought, we had a project just like that. We were looking for someone to do that type of web development. I didn't know she was looking for that opportunity. I didn't know she had an interest there. And I missed that opportunity because I never thought to ask her if she was interested in programming because she's a finance person. This story I really like. This is a more recent one for me. So I enjoy mentoring and I enjoy volunteering. And so I got involved with a women's networking group at work. Wonderful group of women, put on a lot of events, and I volunteered to run one of those events, a mentoring event. And at the end of the event, I was chatting with the volunteers and thanking them for coming in and doing their work that day. And I was talking with one in particular, and I can't even remember how we got in the conversation, but she was excited because she was working on one of her programs. One of her programs is she brings in military students from the local academy for short, basically internships. And she's like, I'm really short on mentors. I wish I had more mentors to take in more students so that we could have more of these students come in. I'll take one. If I hadn't had this entire conversation, I would have missed out on that opportunity. And I'm really excited because I've got a bunch of little tiny projects that would be perfect for someone that is looking for that type of job experience, for that length of time that they will be there. Now, some companies have programs that will match you up with volunteers, with people looking for job experience. How many of you have a program like that at your company? Very, very small show of hands. Okay, wow. And actually, I know a couple of you have it just from what company you're from. Now, if you don't have one, go start one. Consider starting one. It'd be a great win-win scenario because you're helping people connect with each other. You're helping find these free resources. So they're going to get new skills. Maybe they're going to get exposure to a tool that they just wrote and no one's seen yet, but they want people to see. That happened. Beta testers, they're just getting off the road and they want someone to test this new tool, and it happens to do something you want. Great. They get something out of it. You get something out of it. You get help, which you desperately need at this point. Maybe you get more time. Maybe you just get a lead to somebody else that you heard about that's doing similar work. Please talk to everybody. Okay, at this point you're thinking, does she do any real work? Is she just trying to get out of doing her own job? No, absolutely not. At our core, we are quality professionals, and at the end of the day, we're still going to get the job done. The trick here is to try and make a meaningful impression with how little that you have. And it is possible, by the way. Is everyone familiar with the definition of low-hanging fruit? Lots of nods, couple of hands, good. Okay, for those of you that aren't, low-hanging fruit is, in this case, the quality items that you can find that can be done in a short amount of time or take very few resources, but can make a very big impact for your team. Now, you've already done your pre-work. You have your list of everything that has to be done. So evaluate it. Look for these opportunities. Bound tasks is a great way of doing this as well. You have this much work that you need to do. You need to evaluate these 10 tools, for instance. Say I will spend 1 hour in each one. I will get it down to a list of 3. I will bring that to the team. Okay, put a boundary on it. And then always consider reuse options. Start talking to your sister groups and see what's available. In a couple of different cases, I have seen teams create their own new tool, only to find out that their sister team had created a new tool, and their sister team had created a new tool, and all 3 tools did the same thing. So look for those reuse options. So just, what do you consider the low-hanging fruit? Anybody want to just call one out? It's the only time I'm going to make you participate, I think.
Bad links.
Bad links, okay. Going through and fixing out the bad links, okay. Links not opening a new tab, okay. Web-based examples, I love it. Okay. You guys even got some I don't have. This is just some from the last couple teams I had. I broke them into sort of categories, test, team, development. So in the test category, test plan overview. Not a full test plan, which will probably take you a while, but just an overview. Hey team, here's what I'm going to do. Here's what we're going to work on, and share that information. Test tool comparison, that can be done very quickly, at least on the first pass through. Smoke test, something you can usually write in a short period of time, depending on your infrastructure, of course. For the team webpage. I cannot tell you how many times I have gone into a team and they've had no webpage for their team. Nothing, no resources, no documentation. Sorry. It took less than half a day to go get a webpage set up for the team. I sent out a link, said, hey everybody, we have a team webpage. Start putting your information here and sharing it with others. Hey, that's a great idea, thanks. Onboarding documentation, same idea. I'm optimistic that I'm going to still get new people coming into my team, and so I want to prepare for those. Team training. There might be trainings available at your company already. Can you get the entire team signed up for one? Version control tools. Usually when I walk into a team, that is already there. If that is not already there, this is something that the developers are usually going to thank you for. Coding standards. Very rarely do I walk into a team and they have coding standards. Very rarely are they grateful when I add them. Code reviews, something else you can add very simply. You can just say, hey guys, we're going to do some quick buddy checks from now on until we get some formal tools in place. Just have each other check each other's code. Just a little sanity check. Something quick and easy. Defect tracking. This can be easy or hard depending on which tools you're using. Some tools now, some of the Agile tools, have defect tracking already in them, which is great, and I love that. Makes my life easier. Sometimes you have to go put in the new system. And then you can go further down the line. Process training, very easy to do. Bug scrub, very often those aren't in the team already. And a bunch of others. Brown bags is one that is sometimes missed, because you can go into a team and this person over here knows everything about this part of the product. And this person over here knows everything about this part of the product. And if either one of them were to get hit by a bus, your whole team's in trouble. So, hey, can you come in next week for lunch and just explain your part of the code to everybody else? That'd be great. And then next week, could you come in and talk to everybody? It's a very simple thing that you can be doing for your team. And it's going to help the quality of your project. So, now the controversial part of my presentation. It might be time to fight a little dirty. Consider converting other people of your team. Now, I will point out, you might want to have a talk with management about this. You want them ideally on board with what you're about to do. Now, if you have a manager that's not on board with this, or if you have one that just doesn't care, some of these will still work, but you can't go quite as gung-ho as I'm about to suggest. So, if you have a high developer to QA ratio, consider converting your own developers to QA. Why? Well, they're already part of your team. The ramp time is going to be very minimal for them to join your product. They know your software very, very well because they wrote it. They have the needed skills that you want. Now, there's a few cons. This is a crazy thought, but they may not enjoy doing quality work. And the other thing to think about is the mindset. Some developers have a mindset, and I'm not saying this is a good mindset, that developers are better than quality engineers. I don't agree with this. The story I have along these lines is I was on a team, and I was the only quality person there, of course, and I think there was 10 developers on that team. They've been coding for ages. And so I was going through, and I found a bug. And I went and I looked through the code. It was a really simple bug. Went through the code, found the bug, went, this is easy to fix. Mailed the developer, said, look, you have this bug in this area of your code. Here is why, and here's how you can fix it. And I sent the email. And he walked over to me. You can code? Yes, of course I can code. He goes, well, why are you just a quality person? You might be finding a mindset issue. Now, I highly encourage you, if you're in Agile, to use Agile or Scrum, which has this wonderful idea of the team, and not developers in QA, but the team. Use that as an argument for blurring those lines between your developers and your testers. Now, if this doesn't work, and it may not, you can still get your developers to help. If you suggest an idea, they may run with it, even if they didn't come up with it themselves. Unit testing was a great example. I had this happen on a team. I said, look, guys, we need to do unit testing. So either I can own it, or you can own it. Now, anybody that knows me would not want me necessarily owning their tools. So they said, we'll do it. We'll put it in place. We get full control over it. I said, yeah, you bet. And they did. They went off, and they did it. Git was another example that we had here. We had a version control system. They weren't happy with it. I said, great, I can fix that, or here's a way you can fix it. And I said, actually, we care about this so much. We would like this, 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 and this. We will do the conversion process. And they did. And they put in a bunch of extra work that was on my low priority list. They did all that for me because they cared enough about it. As another technique you can try, have your developers test each other's work. I will very often have someone come up to me, all right, I got my user story done. I need you to go validate it right now. Okay, I'll have time to look at that tomorrow. And this example is a great template for this. I'll say, I can't get to that till tomorrow, but I happen to know that so-and-so already has their user stories done and was looking for more work to pick up from the backlog. And I happen to know they know your code very well. Why don't you have them test it for you? And a lot of times, they're happy with that solution because I'm no longer creating a problem. I'm no longer the bottleneck. I've given them a solution. Here is something that you can do that's going to solve the problem you currently have. When you are converting others, don't forget about all your team members. Scrum Masters can be a great ally. They can help with quality. Definition of done is a great example of this, which I've just barely nipped on here. Technical writers are good. Technical writers because they can help with web pages, they can help with documentation. Sysadmins, hardware requirements, sometimes some of that research. You bet. Architects, Sometimes you can get them involved in this as well. And it's not up here, but don't forget about your own manager, especially if they come from a developer or a quality background. It's not really their role anymore, but sometimes they're willing to take on small tasks because it keeps their skills fresh. All right, so I actually have 2 conclusion slides because I had so much I wanted to share. One, I have to say, if you are in this situation, you have a rough job. Try and focus on communication, on transparency. Some of these ideas are going to work better in certain environments. Your manager personality is going to influence this a lot. Your coworkers' temperaments are going to influence this. Even the company atmosphere is going to play into how this works out for you. But be creative, be flexible, because you're trying to reach those quality goals. And the great thing is you're in a unique position. Because you're the only one there, you are the sole owner of the quality of this product. And you can make a big difference even with your limited resources. So, do not be afraid of being the first person to ask the question. Cannot tell you how many times I've heard, oh, no one's ever asked me that before. Don't be afraid to hear no repeatedly. That's just an opportunity for you to ask again. Don't be afraid to say no repeatedly. No, I'm sorry. I feel that this is better for the quality of the product. What can I do to help solve this problem? And don't be afraid of making a few waves if it means a better quality product. So, if you are here, you are probably familiar with this scenario. The show of hands earlier kind of proved that, which was delightful. What I've done for you is you should have all gotten a note card. A note card. So, totally optional, of course, but if the person next to you raised their hand, write down your name, your email, and exchange cards. That's one more person that you can now get to help you. Okay? Now, if you don't want to do that, that's fine. If you want to write down your name and your email, send it up here to me. I love talking to new people. If you have a quality horror story, especially send me your information. I love quality horror stories. All right. And then while you guys are doing that, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Yes?
Curious your thoughts on this. I said in a talk, this was not here, somewhere else, and an owner of a company called Quality Assurance Burger Flipping Software.
Wow.
I haven't gone back since.
So for those of you that didn't hear this, it was somebody called Quality Assurance, the burger flipping. Oh. As how you get into the business. It is very derogatory, but I've heard that mindset. I've heard that very negative mindset before. Yeah, unfortunately, it exists, and to me, it's a teaching opportunity. I can share with you, well, here's why quality is important. So that's what I always take that tact. Absolutely. Any other questions for me? Yeah.
I have been in a similar situation where I have been able to recruit some help from my developers and some architects in terms of some QA testing to analyze each other's work. The problem there is that we'll often find different things from each other or report things differently from each other. And, I understand a whole lot of this is going through the procedure process and learn how to feed all that back to each other. Getting to that point is a little bit difficult considering schedules, responsibilities, sit down and actually say, this is how we're going to be doing that. Like, in your experience, do you feel it's easiest to get, like, a set form of forms, exactly as a response, or you like, okay, and we'll let them sort of pull it out on their own and sort of put it together as a whole? I don't know. It's just sort of difficult to try to get a sense of how testing.
Right. So I think the general question was, when you have all these different people, how do you kind of get everybody into the same location? To to me, totally depends on the team. I have had teams that if I say, look, why don't you guys decide what's best for the team? They will, and then we can find a direction together. And I've had a few teams where I've just had to say, look, okay, this is the priority list from the quality perspective, go do it. And I don't like doing that, but some groups, they're like, oh, okay, you told us what to do, excellent. And they will go, and that actually is, that's what they wanted. So sometimes I've had to do it. And sometimes I've actually found that they've been surprisingly grateful. Yeah, they're like, oh, that's what you wanted me to tell you to do. Okay. Perfect. Oh, thanks everybody.